Hey, everybody, and welcome once again to Nose in the Book, a Bible reading commentary with me, your host, Pastor Justin Van Reed. So great to have you with me once again as we take a look at four more chapters from the Word of God. We have before us today 2 Samuel chapter 18, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, Ezekiel chapter 25, and also Psalm 73. All right, as it is with the other days, if you have any questions or comments about these chapters, please feel free to post anything in the comments section below. Otherwise, let's begin here and take a look at what we've got before us. So we start here with 2 Samuel chapter 18. And this is now David having been on the run from Absalom, chased out of the palace, and the Absalom gets this army together to come out against David. And so David's men here respond by organizing themselves to battle against Absalom's gathered army. And they come out against them, and actually, David's army has success here in the battle. Um, he goes and they go and they fight against this Israelite army, and it says the Israelite troops are beaten back by David's men. There was a great slaughter that day. 20,000 men laid down their lives, and the battle raged all across the countryside, and then many more died in the forest. Then, during the battle, Absalom, he comes upon some of David's men, tries to escape, and gets caught in a tree. It says that his hair got caught in the tree, but his mule kept going, so he's stuck in the tree, dangling there. And one of David's men comes upon him and goes and gets Joab, David's general, who previously has had no problem with killing. So Joab asks, why didn't you kill? And the man's like, I'm not killing, right? Like, you got to be crazy. But Joab does. He doesn't mind it. So Joab goes and stabs Absalom, has his men kill him. And then you have this scene here where Ahimaaz wants to go and report to David what has happened, that his men have defeated Absalom's army. But Joab knows that David's not going to want to hear that Absalom had been killed, because specifically he was told they were told not to kill Absalom, and so it's David's son, and so Joab sends this, tells Ahimaaz, no, you don't want to deliver this news. So he tells this Ethiopian, just random guy, you go and tell the king what you have seen. And so that guy goes running off. Then Ahimaaz says, no, really, I want to go, let me go. And so Joab relents and he says, okay, fine, you can go as well here. And he takes a different route than the Ethiopian, gets there first. And so David's men, they see, okay, there's this man running, and then there's another man running. And so Ahimaaz gets there first, but he just reports to David that the good news, we won the battle, right? Your men have survived, Absalom's men have retreated, okay, everything is well. But then the Ethiopian arrives, and David says to Ahimaaz, what about Absalom? That's all he cares about. What about Absalom? What about Absalom? And he says, there's a lot of commotion. I'm not sure. The Ethiopian arrives, and Dave, same news, good news, we won. David, same thing, same question. What about Absalom? The Ethiopian replies, basically, he's dead, and so the king is very sad and just cries out at the end of the chapter, "Oh, Absalom, Absalom, my son, Absalom! If only I had died instead of you, oh Absalom, my son, my son." So grieves the heart of David here as Absalom is defeated. All right, 2 Corinthians chapter 11. We have more defense from the Apostle Paul here of his ministry. And, again, there were these teachers who were coming in, these, as he says, these so-called super apostles, right? These guys who were saying, like, you should listen to us and don't listen to Paul. And Paul is very clear here that these guys were wrong. These were deceitful people, false apostles, right? It wasn't just that they were other guys, other teachers, but they were teaching what is false and saying, don't listen to Paul. And they were pointing to the fact that Paul had been, beaten up so much. Paul here, he points to the fact of his weakness to say it's all about God. It's all about Christ and the work that he's done. So he says, I'm going to boast, right? In other words, let me defend myself here, but I'm not going to boast in all of my, great accomplishments, even though he says, I could, right? Because he says, are they Hebrews? I am too. Are they Israelites? I am too. Descendants of Abraham, servants of Christ, right? He says, I've served him far more, right? He says, you want to compare, who's the real super apostle? And Paul lists out here things he's gone through, but look at what the list is, right? Facing death again and again, being beaten with rods, stoned, shipwrecked, adrift at sea, long journeys, dangers from his own people, danger from Gentiles, danger from robbers, dangers everywhere he goes, cities, deserts, seas, right? Besides that, he says, I got the anxiety of the churches on all of me, right? So all of this, though, but he says, but I would rather boast about the things that show how weak I am, right? And because God is the one who this, is the one who is praised here, right? Think about this. If the world rejects the message of Paul and beats him and faces out, that's more evidence, more support that what he's saying is true than he says. Then if what I come is with this message everybody wants to hear and everybody's listening, right? It's kind of upside down, but that's the wisdom of the world versus the wisdom of Christ, of the gospel, which the world rejects, right? Jews, it's a stumbling block. To Gentiles, it's foolishness. So naturally you would say, okay, this is, Paul's defense, but he's not defending, and hey, let me tell you all the great things like a normal, person who wants to commend themselves would do. He's pointing to all of his sufferings, all of his weaknesses to show that it's been God at work through him. All right, so this is Paul's, more of Paul's defense here in 2 Corinthians 11, boasting in weakness. All right, then Ezekiel chapter 25, we have a series of prophecies against the nations around Israel. So much of the focus has been on Israel, prophesying against Israel, or against Judah in particular here in Ezekiel and Jerusalem. But now we have those who have attacked, who have, over the years just opposed Jerusalem and Judah. And we have Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia. And, we go Ammon, Moab, Edom, Philistia, as far as, going down and around Israel there, especially in the south where Judah is. And you read through Samuel and Kings, and you see these groups and how they fight against Israel and Judah. And so God describes here how these people who had rejoiced at the downfall of Judah and Israel, now they're going to face judgment themselves. I'm going to come against them, and their cities are going to be laid waste. They're going to be destroyed. So he goes just through each of those groups: Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia. All right, then lastly here we come to Psalm 73, and it's a well-known psalm here, right? Because he starts off, truly God is good to Israel, to those whose hearts are pure. But he says, but as for me, I almost lost my footing. My feet were slipping and I was almost gone. All right, why? What problem what sin did this psalmist commit in essence? He says, my problem was I looked at the wicked and I envied them because they were prospering. So I looked at that and I saw they're prospering despite their wickedness. They're doing so well. And, they don't have troubles like other people. They're not plagued with problems. Right? They're wicked. So this doesn't make sense. So this would cause doubt in the heart. Just look around the world. This would cause doubt in the heart. Is there a God? Is God truly the God of the Bible and the things that he says where he's going to punish the wicked and set, all the righteous, be for all the righteous? This doesn't make sense because when you look around at all the wicked people, they seem to be doing so well. He says, that these fat cats have everything, verse 7. Everything their hearts could ever wish for. They speak only evil. They're proud. They're boasting. They even, say, what does God know? Does the Most High even know what's happening? Just horrible. And yet they're enjoying a life of ease while their riches multiply. And he says, so this is what was my thinking. But then I entered into the sanctuary, he says, and I finally understood the destiny of the wicked. He said, I saw that even though it looks like they're prospering, God will set things right. And so this is, where the trust in the Lord comes in, right? Because we shouldn't look around just at the circumstances of right now, of today, and evaluate and interpret, oh, this is, God's lost control, or God's a liar because look at how the wicked are prospering. But we got to have the long view of things. We got to think in terms of things from God's perspective here, and recognize that it's true. His word is always true, and so ultimately, those who belong to Him will be vindicated, will be with Him for all eternity. Those who are wicked, who oppose Him, who don't believe in Jesus, they are going to face judgment. Right? Just look at Israel's history in Ezekiel and everything that's being described there. You could look at the other nations laughing as Judah is being destroyed by the Babylonians, but God says, no. In the end, I'm going to be for my people, and these wicked nations are going to perish, whether it's Babylon, Edom, Moab, Philistia, whatever it is. And so it's always right to be on the Lord's side here. So that's why he says at the end here, how good it is to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my shelter. I will tell everyone about the wonderful things you do. All right, that's all we have time for today. Again, we had 2 Samuel 18, 2 Corinthians 11, Ezekiel 25, and Psalm 73. Thanks for being with me these last few minutes. Until next time, keep your eyes on the Lord and your nose in the book. We'll see you again soon.